Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another What If video. In today's video, I want to discuss unfair discrimination on the ground of disability and more specifically unpack whether employers can discriminate against an employee for not meeting the inherent job requirements. Now, in unpacking this topic, I want to refer to the recent Constitutional Court case of Diamonds versus City of Cape Town. And as always, let's first discuss the facts of the matter. The employee was employed by the City of Cape Town as a firefighter way back in 2001. In 2013, the employee was seriously injured whilst on duty, and as a result, he was no longer able to work as a firefighter, primarily as a result of the fact that he was no longer able to lift and carry heavy weights. The ability to do so was an inherent requirement of the job as a firefighter. During the course of an incapacity process, the employee agreed that he be transferred to another position within the city's Fire and Life Safety Division. The position was of an administrative nature and did not involve lifting and carrying heavy weights. He retained his designation as a firefighter, which is important, and he also remained on the same or at the same salary level. A few years later, the employee applied for a promotion to the position of senior firefighter. Now, the ability to lift and carry heavy weights was also an inherent requirement of this job as a senior firefighter, and his application for promotion was refused on this basis as he was not able to do it. The employee was unhappy with this, and he referred the dispute to the CCMA, where he argued that the refusal to promote him constituted unfair discrimination on the ground of disability. Now, at the Labour Court found that the city, by applying the policy to Diamonds or the employee in a way that prevented him from advancing due to his disability, amounted to unfair discrimination in terms of Section 6, subsection 1 of the Employment Equity Act. The city was not happy with this outcome and they appealed to the Labour Appeal Court. Now, the Labour Appeal Court overturned the Labour Court's judgment and found that it was not possible for Diamonds to perform the essential functions of a senior firefighter, which I tend to agree with. The Labour Appeal Court found that the city had not unfairly discriminated against Diamonds, and then Diamonds was unhappy with the outcome and he appealed to the Constitutional Court, which is obviously what we are discussing on this video. In the Constitutional Court, and this is important, it was common cause that physical fitness was an inherent requirement of the job of a senior firefighter, the post that he applied to. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this was correct, that physical fitness was an inherent requirement of the job, is this not the end of the matter for the employee? Was this not the end of the employee's claim? Because we need to remember that Section 6.2 of the Employment Equity Act provides that it's not unfair discrimination if one distinguish or excludes or prefer any person on the basis of an inherent requirement of the job. So if physical fitness is an inherent requirement of the job, he can't comply with inherent requirements of the job, then according to Section 6.2, subsection B, it's not unfair discrimination. Now, in the Constitutional Court, we have many judges, and we sometimes find that they are not all in agreement. So we have a majority decision and a minority decision. Now, in this case, the minority decision answered this question in the negative, the question on whether this is the end of the employee's claim. The minority decision held that the city had another hurdle to overcome in that it had the obligation to consider whether it could reasonably accommodate the employee. So the employee cannot comply, but City of Cape Town, what have you done now to accommodate the employee? However, the majority decision rejected the view of the minority in the court. The majority argued as follows. The city's fire and rescue advancement policy was central to the adjudication of the dispute. This policy applied to operational firefighters involved in active duties and the requirements for promotion from firefighter to senior firefighter. The employee's case, and this is important, the employee's case was that the city had discriminated against him by not waiving the requirement that he be physically able to do the job, and by not promoting him in terms of the policy that I just referred to. It had never been his case that he be granted advancement in the non-operational sphere, and that the failure of the employer to do so constituted unfair discrimination. It was also not his case that the city should have set up a career path for him in a non-operational role. He focused on the role of a firefighter, which the city argued, Mr. Damons, you are physically not able to comply with the inherent requirements of the job. So it was very much limited to the role of a senior firefighter. The court went further to say that the inherent requirements of the job refers to the elements of the job that are essential to the job and part of its core activities. And it said that Section 6.2b that I referred to earlier provides a complete defense to the employee's claim of unfair discrimination. So in finding that it's common cause that the inherent requirements of the job includes physical fitness, the employee is not physically fit to comply with inherent job requirements, and therefore there's an absolute defense or complete defense to the employee's claim of unfair discrimination. The court then elaborated on the minority decision's reliance on the concept of reasonable accommodation. And the majority decision said that this reliance was misplaced. The court stated that the Code of Good Practice on Employment of Persons with Disabilities aims to place employees with disabilities on an equal footing with employees without disabilities. The obligation to reasonably accommodate applies if the accommodation will make it possible for the employee to fulfill the inherent requirements of the job. The court said to go beyond this would effectively require an employer to employ somebody who cannot do the job. The court held that if they are to follow the minority judgment that Damons had to be accommodated, employers would effectively be required to reasonably accommodate employees who cannot meet the inherent job requirements of the job to which they seek appointment. Or worse, it would place an obligation on employers to create new positions in order to accommodate employees who did not meet the inherent job requirements of a different job altogether. And the court said that this is plainly incompatible with the very nature and purpose of reasonable accommodation, which is to enable an employee with disabilities to perform in accordance with the inherent requirements of the job. Ladies and gentlemen, I think employers may welcome the approach adopted by the majority decision, but it is important to note that our courts have interpreted the term inherent requirements of the job fairly strictly. It would have also been interesting to see what the outcome of this matter would have been had Damons included a clause in his pleadings stating that he should be promoted into any position rather than just the position of senior firefighter. As I've mentioned, his claim was fairly limited. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Should you have any queries in regards to this topic that we've discussed, please do not hesitate to contact us. As always, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.